Council meeting for May 4th, 2021. And thank you all for being here. And we'll stand now for the, if you wish, for the Pledge of Allegiance. And join me if you'd like to. I don't see it, but we'll just go ahead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ruth. Appreciate that. City Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Cumby.
Councilor Cumby, speak. Yep, I don't think your microphone was on.
Here.
Gabriel.
Here.
Harrington. Absent. O'Doherty.
Here.
Schuster.
Here.
Stalder.
Here.
Somerville.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
That's 8 present and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, City Clerk. And we'll now go to our public comment on non-agenda items section. And the City Clerk had notified me earlier that we'd had no one sign up ahead of time, but we'll just check quickly and make sure that if there is someone that wants to make public comment on non-agenda items, they have that opportunity now. I don't see any hands up in our attendees. City Clerk, did you have anyone contact you any other way?
I have not, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Council members, will close the public comment and we'll move on now to item number 5, which is consideration of changes in the agenda and setting the agenda. Vice Mayor Pierce, over to you.
All right. I move that the agenda be set as submitted. Second.
All right. Motion second by Councilmember O'Doherty. All those in favor of setting the agenda as submitted, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Okay, and now let's move to the proclamations for this evening. We have one proclamation, which is in recognition of national service. And I'll read that proclamation now, and I do believe we have some who have joined us. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges. And whereas the nation's communities are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet their needs. And whereas AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps senior participants address the most pressing challenges facing our communities, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century, to fighting the opioid epidemic, to responding to natural disasters, to supporting veterans and military families. And whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve. And whereas AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps senior participants serve in more than 50,000 locations across the country, bolstering the civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being. And whereas national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve, both through their direct service and by managing millions of additional volunteers. And whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the AmeriCorps shares a priority with local leaders nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, the National Association of Counties, Cities of Service, and local leaders across the country for National Service Recognition Day. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Paul Weaver, Mayor of Laramie, do hereby proclaim May 4th, 2021 as National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our community, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities. And I want to just briefly, yes, I think it's, yeah, you can do the Zoom clap if you want. We wish that we could do more of these things in person. Just briefly, I want to say that years ago, I've participated in AmeriCorps programs and found them to be all of the things that were stated in that proclamation. And I also worked at a nonprofit where we provided service opportunities to AmeriCorps members, and they were absolutely vital to the success of our projects and the things that we were doing, and providing all of those kinds of community services that do have the impacts, again, that were stated in that proclamation. And I know that we have some folks here. I think we have Carrie Owen and Wendy Luck from Serve Wyoming, respectively, I think. And I'd like to turn it over to both of you for anything you might want to add or share with the council on this, if you'd like to. And Carrie, I guess I'll go ahead and have you go first, since you and I had emailed about that. If there's anything you'd like to share, and then we'll go over to you, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for having us tonight. We also wish we were in person, and hopefully next year we'll get to join you for another year of National Service Recognition Day. We just appreciate you all so much for reading that proclamation and giving thanks to those who serve and have served, and to those agencies that welcome service. Wendy, do you want to add anything?
I think I would just echo what Carrie said. We really appreciate you taking the time tonight, and even with the challenges of not being able to be in person, which we'll hopefully be able to do in the future, we really appreciate you recognizing AmeriCorps and the service that they do here in Wyoming.
Well, I just think it's a hugely important program. And every year the City Council hears from most of the nonprofits that are active in our community, providing services across a whole spectrum of needs. And I know many of those agencies provide those AmeriCorps service opportunities. And we know that they're operating on tight budgets, and the demands on the services they provide seem to increase every year. And certainly they increased over this last year with the economic impacts that everybody's been dealing with. And I wonder if you might answer a question for me, if you can, which is, can you give us a figure of how many AmeriCorps service members we have in Wyoming that are active right now, or that were active over this past year? I guess that question is for Carrie or Wendy or whoever can answer it. I'm just kind of curious.
I don't have those numbers with me. Wendy, do you happen to?
We were just looking at that for our volunteer guide that's coming out here soon. And I believe it is currently, we're at 165 current serving members. We're also going to be taking on another 30 Vista Summer Associates this year, and 7 full year Vistas, as well as another 165 RSVP volunteers. So those are our seniors that are continuing their national service.
Great, that's great to hear. And I can't emphasize it enough that in providing those AmeriCorps service opportunities, you provide those nonprofits with the capacity to keep improving and providing really badly needed services across a number of areas. And we certainly feel it, and feel the positive benefits from that here in Laramie. So thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to recognize the AmeriCorps program and National Service Day. Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next year, like you said. That's great.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for having us tonight.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing you next year.
Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
You do the same. Thank you.
I appreciate your patience, council members. I'm very, very fond of the AmeriCorps program. I think it's a big deal and a good deal for communities all over the place, not the least of which the city of Laramie. We have a public hearing now that I'd like to turn over to the city clerk for the announcement.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom from City Hall Council Chambers, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming, for the following purpose. Original ordinance number 2026, amending LMC 5.09.615, prohibited on licensed premise underage exceptions. All information relative to this matter is available for review at the City of Laramie City Clerk's office at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do we have anyone attending our meeting this evening that would like to speak during this public hearing on this issue? I'm looking for hands up from our attendees. I'm not seeing anyone. I'll give it just a minute. City Clerk, have you received any kind of notification from any other members of the public for the public hearing?
I have not, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Seeing no comment for the public hearing, we'll close the public hearing now and move to the next item on our agenda, announcements. Do we have any announcements this evening from the staff?
Thank you, Mayor. We do have 3 announcements. I'll go first to Assistant City Manager and to the Planning Department, and then I'll conclude with an announcement.
Mayor, Council, just another reminder, my last reminder, which is we are in the midst of Community Cleanup Week. We did have some teams go out this last weekend and do some cleanup around the community. Brian Forrester was kind of heading up that. He actually was down at City Hall on Saturday handing out trash bags, vests, and things like that to people that wanted to do cleanup. So if you're interested in doing some cleanup, you can always reach out to our offices here at the city. You can contact the number 721-5285 and we can help kind of direct you where to go in areas that we still need people to do cleanup. This is just a great way for Laramie to kind of spruce up and look good for spring and for graduation and all the things that come, you know, as things get nice around here. So also, in conjunction, there is still the vouchers at the Laramie landfill, and so it's a great way if you've got a lot of things on your property to get them out to the landfill and get your place cleaned up. So always get in touch with the planning office, and we can help you out if you want to know more information.
Thank you, and we want to thank Mr. Forrester and all the city staff members that helped facilitate that. Dovetails nicely with tonight's theme of community volunteerism. Lots of ways to help out. Thank you, Derek. Assistant City Manager Fieser, I think you're up.
Honorable Mayor. Yep, Honorable Mayor, City Council. I just wanted to remind the City Council that on May 8th, Rocky Mountain Power will be doing some maintenance on some lines that will affect power outages to approximately 1,200 Albany County and City of Laramie residents. Most notably, there's a few folks in the Coughlin Pole Mountain area, and then Sherman Hills, Imperial Heights, Grandview Heights, the Boulder Drive and the paddock south of town will be affected mostly out of this outage. We have posted some maps on the city Facebook page, so if you'd like to see the outages, the blue line indicates if you're in an outage area. Rocky Mountain Power has contacted them. The rec center will be staying open, even though we will be limited because we don't have enough power to run the pool pumps. But we'll stay open and we'll be there if people need electricity to charge up electronics or just a way to get out of their house if it's a little bit dark and want to do a little recreation. The rec center will be there for them if they do need it. Other than that, I am getting ready to post some information on food safety tips during power outages. That'll be on our Facebook page also. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that announcement. There's been a lot of questions about that. I haven't received any by email, but I've seen them floating around social media and so forth. Assistant City Manager, do we have an estimate from Rocky Mountain Power about how long that's supposed to take? I've heard some different numbers out there, so I wonder if you might give us a ballpark about that.
The estimate, unfortunately, is from 4:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night. This is a major switchover. The best way for me to explain the switchover is that this will allow them to remotely restore power if it's lost through the WAPA corridor, and we won't have to wait on WAPA employees to travel from Cheyenne to Laramie to restore power if we're lost on a somewhat unreliable line. So I do believe this is a very important improvement for our residents and will provide more reliable, safe power for our community.
Thank you. Thank
I have
you.
a question.
Go ahead, Councilor Doherty, with the question.
Is there some way that people that have like oxygen concentrators and things, are there, is Rocky Mountain Power providing like oxygen or oxygen tanks so that they're not stranded that long?
Honorable Mayor, through you to Councilor Doherty, I can certainly reach out to our contact with Rocky Mountain Power. They do have a contact number if you did have anything beyond the normal that was supposed to be shared. They did contact via phone, text, and email everybody that they could reach in their known power outage areas. So I would hope that they've got that covered, but I could certainly reach out to our contact and make sure.
It might be worth, I could do this, checking with the people that supply oxygen around town so that they could let all their customers know. I'll try reaching out. Thanks.
Good question, and thank you for the announcement and the updates on that. Assistant City Manager, like we said, there's been a lot of questions about it. Hopefully there's been enough coverage of it locally and adequate notice that people are prepared for it. And fortunately, I think that's forecast to be a pretty nice day that day. So maybe a good time to get out of the house while your power's off. Any other announcements? I think the city manager had one.
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to let the public know that we have closed the application period last Friday for residents to serve on the ad hoc working group for police and community. In reviewing those applications and preparing to refer them to the nominating committee, we realized that we need applicants who have experience providing social services. So we have reopened the application period, particularly for those kinds of applicants, and we will continue to accept applications. So if you or someone you know is engaged in providing social services in the community and would like to serve in that capacity, the application is available on the city website. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we need qualified people that meet those different criteria that the council has set forth so that we can be successful with what we're trying to do with that committee. So please, we encourage interested members to apply. Item number 7 on our agenda is any disclosures by city council members on any of the items to be discussed tonight. Are there any disclosures? Hearing none. We'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda, and I'll turn it over to Vice Mayor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
A motion and a second from Councilor Schuster. Thank you, and we'll have a roll call on the consent agenda.
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington. Absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stoller,
Yes.
Somerville. Absent. Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thanks, City Clerk, and the consent agenda motion carries. Consent agenda has been approved. We'll now move on to the regular agenda item, and for item number 11, which will be Vice Mayor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. And let me just apologize in advance for my probable mispronunciation of the name of this company. So let's go here. I move to award the bid of the 11th Street Priority Replacement Project to Untitled Construction, Inc., Casper, Wyoming, in the amount of $1,291,738.10, along with the contingency of $129,173.81. for a total amount not to exceed $1,420,911.91. Amend the fiscal year 2021 water budget accordingly, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
There's the motion and the second from Councilor Gabriel. Thank you very much. And I see we have City Engineer Jump here and Mr. Heslett. So whoever is here to give us the background, it's over to you.
Okay. Your Honorable Mayor, members of council, I'm going to kind of do an introduction for, I think, the next 6 items to kind of make it easier for you guys. The first 2 items will be introduced by the project manager, Mark Hazlett, and then the following 4 items will be introduced by the project manager, William Winkler. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, City Council, we really are excited to bring forward this project. This project is combining 3 sections of water main that need to be replaced. These water lines are located along the W. Hill Downey Alley between 9th and 11th Street, then along 11th Street from W. Hill Downey Alley to the Curtis Mitchell Alley, and down the Curtis Mitchell Alley to 9th Street, kind of making a large U, if you will. These segments of water line have exceeded their service life and are requiring more and more repairs as time goes on. Along with the water line, we are combining this with an SPT project for replacement of the asphalt over the water line. Along with the asphalt, we will be updating the ADA and replacing the ADA along the project area. And we will also be replacing a lot of the curb, gutter, and sidewalk along that road section as well. So a pretty good project there, combining multiple aspects. After the design was complete, staff solicited bids for the construction of this 11th Street project in accordance with the City of Laramie purchasing policy and state statute. We received 1 bid with a bid alternate on April 13th, 2021, and it was read aloud by the city clerk. The staff and the design engineer, Sunrise Engineering, have reviewed the bid documents for completeness, and we recommend bid award of the base bid only to Optidal Construction Incorporated. With that, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hazlett. Do we have any questions for our staff folks on this project? Questions or we'll even go with comments.
I'll go with the comment.
Please.
I've walked that area a lot and desperately needs this. So I'm glad to see it's getting done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's a great time to see it coming and to hear about the full scope of the project with all of the things that are being replaced there. It's really good news. People will be glad to see it. Even if they don't know that all the background like maybe the city government does, it'll be a good improvement. Any other questions or comments on this item before we go over to whoever is next from the staff on it? If we have anyone else from the staff who wants to add anything. We'll go to public comments on this item and see if we have any public comments on it. I don't see any hands up in our attendees on our video conference program. City Clerk, do you have any other indications? Okay. I'm seeing that there aren't any. So why don't we go to a vote? Roll call vote, please.
Felder,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, Gabriel,
Yes.
Kemby,
Yes.
Somerville, absent, Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. And that motion carries, and thank you. So let's go to item number 12 now, and that's back over to Vice Mayor Pierce.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve amendment number 1 to the 11th Street Priority Replacement Design Professional Services Agreement with Sunrise Engineering to conduct construction services in the amount of $94,800 with a contingency of $9,480 for a total amount of $104,280 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilor Schuster. Thank you. And turn it back over to Mr. Hazlett. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and City Council, this amendment is for construction services to monitor this project, 11th Street, as it is constructed. Is for the amendments for Sunrise Engineering, who's very familiar with the project, as they are the ones that designed it. With that, I'm open to any questions.
Appreciate it. Any questions on this agenda item or comments? Kind of rolls in with many of the other things that we're about to talk about, like the city engineer mentioned previously. All right, we'll see if there's any public comment on this one. I don't have any hands up from attendees. City clerk, you can let me know, and there aren't any. Okay, so we'll go to a roll call vote.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Somerville, absent. Oh, I see that she's rejoined.
Yes. I'm here.
Thank you. Schuster,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Let's go to item number 13, which is Council Member O'Doherty.
I move to award the bid for the Reynolds Sanitary Sewer Phase 1 project to Simon Contractors, Laramie, Wyoming, in the amount of $1,193,220.00, along with the contingency of $119,000, 322. Let me say that again. $119,322.00 for a total amount not to exceed $1,312,542.00 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign. Hard numbers.
Second.
Thank you. A second from Councilor Gabriel, and we were right there with you, pulling for you the whole time, Councilor O'Doherty. Thank you. We all do it. It happens. I see Mr. Winkler's joined us. Good to see you. It's been a little while. Thanks for being here. Over to you for background.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor. So as excited as Mark was for 11th Street, I think we're just as excited or more for Reynolds Street. Everybody's been waiting on this project, Phase 1, to get going. This is a culmination of Tri-Hydro's design. During the design process, we notified this area as the Phase 1 most important section to get addressed for Reynolds Sanitary Sewer. It goes from kind of where 12th Street would be, so between 11th and 13th Street, all the way up to 19th Street. That it was the primary bottleneck area that we found through design. And then there were a couple of spot repairs that are needed near 22nd and Reynolds. Those are going to be coordinated around when school's out of session and before they get back into session for sure. So get those ones addressed, get this project underway. We did go out for bids. We received them on the 20th. We received one bid. There was some interest in the project, but we received one bid. Simon Contractors, and after reviewing the bid, we reviewed it with Tri-Hydro and we recommend award. So with that, we can take questions.
All right. Appreciate the background on that one. Yeah, this is a long time coming, badly needed, so it's good to see it happening. Council members, any follow-up comments or questions on this one? Go to Council Member, I'm going to go Gabriel, O'Doherty, and then the Vice Mayor. Go ahead, Council Member Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, just curious about with the construction of Slade going on, will this help out that construction the new infrastructure going in there off of Reynolds?
So through this design, currently there are no tie-ins to the Slade construction.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember Gabriel. Councilmember O'Doherty, over to you. Thanks for waiting.
We have a lot of projects lined up, and the university has a lot of things. So I'm just wondering, are we gonna have like parts of streets open so that we won't just all be stuck at our houses this summer?
I think that that's definitely something that we're trying to consider, and we have to consider the nature of the work that we're doing. You know, we're digging down 9 feet down to a sewer. There's going to be material that we have to store within the area. I'm working with the contractor to limit the disruptions, so we're not going to shut down the entire length of this project all at once. But there will probably be full width street closures as part of this job. I think it just comes naturally with the utility work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, thanks for waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is in line with Councilor Gabriel regarding traffic rerouting and, you know, pretty good size vehicles going through neighborhoods related to Slade construction as well as this particular project. So I don't know if we've thought about alternative routes for some of this activity, but it'll be both occurring at the same time in roughly the same location. So.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, through you, Councilor Pierce, we definitely are aware of the other construction in the area, and honestly, 11th Street, the project that Mark Hazlett just announced for you, is not far from this area as well. So we are going to have heavy equipment in the area. There's not a whole lot of ways to avoid it. We are going to try and limit the disruptions, and preferably we do our detours to larger roads instead of just to the local streets nearby. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions or follow-up for William? Well, at least it's going to be somewhat concentrated in an area. That's helpful, as opposed to some years when we've had a lot of infrastructure work going on. It's been kind of all over the city. Councilor Schuster, I saw you switched on your camera. Did you have a question or comment?
Kind of did, but it's been covered because we've got a lot of events coming up with Memorial Day and everything. So mine was just kind of generally just like everybody else's, though. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. I just wanted to check. Other comments, questions from the council? Okay. Let's see if we have any public comment. I've got a hand raised here, and I want to recognize Judy Snoke. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members and Mr. Winkler. When is this going to start? I missed that. What's the beginning date for the construction?
Go ahead, Mr. Winkler. Yeah, let's cover that again.
Okay, Honorable Mayor, through you, the start date is something that we can't completely determine until we get the contractor on board. But we normally do a notice of award by the end of this week to tell them that. Then they have to get their paperwork through me, and we give them a notice to proceed. From there, they have 7 days to start work, and then the completion date for this project is probably the thing that we're dictating the most to them, and that is an October 31st completion date, so the end of October.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for that question. It's a pretty extensive project, and so it may take that full time. Of course, we'd love it if it was completed earlier, but we know how that can go. Any other public comment on this item? I don't see any hands up, and the city clerk isn't letting me know that we have anybody else. So, council, anything else before we go to the vote? guess I'll just say that it's good to see all these things rolling out and moving forward. They're all pretty important projects, and some of them I know we've been anticipating and prepping for a while. So it's good to see it happening. Let's have a roll call vote on the item, City Clerk.
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you. Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stalder,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. That motion carries. And that brings us now to item number 14, which is Councilmember Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move to approve amendment number 2 to the Reynolds Sanitary Sewer Design Professional Services Agreement with Tri-Hydro to conduct construction services in the amount $121,182 with a contingency of $12,000 for a total amount $133,182. Authorize the mayor and clerk to
Second.
sign.
Motion and a second from Councilor Schuster. Thank you very much. And Mr. Winkler, I see you're still here with us, so I'm going to send it over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. This is the follow-up item to the Reynolds Sanitary Sewer Phase 1 project. Tri-Hydro is the company that did the design for the project. This is Amendment 2 to their engineering services contract. The first amendment was when we added video inspection and cleaning and cameraing of the sewer main. That was very insightful for the issues that are going on with the project, and it allowed us to zero in on exactly what we need to get done in Phase 1. So Amendment 2 is to have them help with inspection services. I can answer any questions.
Great. Questions on the item from the council? I'm going to ask this question, which is just a little bit. Can you kind of give us a rundown of some of what was discovered with the camera imaging and a little bit of what we're looking at with this?
Yeah. So, Honorable Mayor, the cameraing, it was discovered that there was areas of heavy sedimentation in the bottleneck region that we are looking to replace. With that area, we found that the slopes just weren't correct. The flows slowed down enough that things settled out, and then so we needed to address that area and confirm that there was more blockage in there than we were expecting. And then we also found the various collapse points or different things that just you can't find without getting in there and cameraing it. And being that it's a major outfall, it's something that it is pretty big undertaking to go in there and bypass pump, camera, and be able to inspect that to the level that we did. So that's where we added those 2 spot repairs at 22nd and Reynolds.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's good for us to hear some of those details on that. Anybody else? Council members? Okay. See if we've got any public comment on that project. I don't have any hands up. Nothing from the city clerk. So, council, I'll give you another shot at it. Okay. All right, city clerk, can we have a roll call on this item?
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stalder,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. That motion carries. Takes us to item number 15. I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. The title of this is the award of bid for the 15th Street Reconstruction Project. I move to award the bid of the 15th Street Reconstruction Project to Simon Contractors, Laramie, Wyoming, in the amount of $740,774, along with a contingency of $74,000 for a grand total not to exceed $814,774, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion and a second by the vice mayor. Another big project, long anticipated, and we have Mr. Winkler here to tell us some more about it. Go ahead.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, this project has been, I don't know if you guys remember, a couple years back, we had a pretty major failure in 15th Street in a couple of locations. Our staff was able to get in there and get some patches put in place, but to address the issue fully, we have worked on a design, and now we're looking to go to construction for 15th Street. It is between Grand Avenue and through the intersection of Sheridan Street. This is, as you're aware, I know Grand Avenue is, or not Grand Avenue, but 15th Street is closed in areas north of this project. We are aware of that. We have put out in public notice to the area, received some comments back, have communicated through different things with the residents in the area, trying to work with them to keep them involved with what timelines we're working with and what needs they may still need while we're working. The contractors have been told that they will be maintaining access up until they absolutely cannot. This project does go in and replace existing cross section with 9 inches of base, 6 inches of asphalt over a geosynthetic fabric. So we will also be going in there and doing spot repair on some of the curb and gutter and upgrading ADA throughout the area. So I guess with that, I'll answer some questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Schuster, and then we'll go to Councilmember O'Doherty. Go ahead, Councilmember Schuster.
Yeah, I was reading this and I thought, oh wow, 15th closed on both sides of Grand Avenue. This is going to be something. One of the other questions I have is we have Memorial Day coming up, which is a big event at our cemetery on the south side of Grand. Can we comment on that, or do you have any idea if that'll be open on the main entrance of the cemetery or anything? And I know it's completely unrelated to this one, but I'd sure like, so a lot of people have been asking me.
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Honorable Mayor, through you, Councilor Schuster, I don't believe our project will impact the cemetery, as we are south of Grand and the cemetery isn't that north of Grand by a few blocks, but I wouldn't be comfortable speaking directly to the schedule for the 15th Street work from UW right offhand without a little bit more communication with them. So
I see Todd jumped on.
Yeah, go ahead, Assistant City Manager.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that the main entrance to the cemetery is currently closed due to a project on 15th. We are open at the secondary service gate and the Willett gate, providing 2 access points. And then hopefully the project will move farther to the north and will be open at the main gate and the Willett gate here soon. William, is the 15th closed currently?
Honorable Mayor, or Todd, yes, the 15th is closed currently. We're down to, I think they're moving up a block in the very near future. So,
thank you. And I see the city engineer on here, so if you wanted to add anything to that, please do.
I think what's been, Your Honorable Mayor, what's been said is factual. We can mention that. I don't know what the exact plan is. It's kind of dictated by how much pipe they're laying in the ground at the time and what will be open and what won't. But we can definitely mention that and see what we can do for that. But can't promise anything right now, but can look into that as it approaches.
Yeah, I appreciate that from all of you, and I think Councilmember Schuster's point is a good one. I mean, there are people that every year, regularly want to use those entryways there, and if there's something we can do to help people out in the middle of a bunch of construction, let's do it if it's possible. I know you guys will do that. It's a busy time for the city engineer's office, but I guess it always is. It always is. So, Councilmember Schuster, do you have any follow-up or anything on that one?
No, I've been very involved in setting flags and stuff like that every year. And the parade of flags that goes down our main street of the cemetery, where everybody normally comes in, will be not as spectacular. So yeah, that's the way it goes some years.
Yep. Yeah, there's sometimes we've just got to get some street things done. That is that's unfortunate. It's getting impacted, but it's for a good reason. Councilmember O'Doherty, and then I'll go to you, Councilmember Gabriel.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you put your hand up before
I did, then I forgot it. Oh, I did have a question, now I remember.
There you go.
Where does the fabric go in the layering? Is it you said there's a fabric that goes, I'm just trying to picture where it is and all the layers.
Yes, so the Honorable Mayor, I should have started through you, sorry about that. But now the geosynthetic fabric is, it's placed right on the natural earth. So it's below the base course. We go in there, we remove it. That's the first thing that they lay down.
Can I follow up?
Yeah.
Is that for the expansive soils issue, or that's just the way we do things now?
Honorable Mayor, yes. So it's a pretty common practice in most parts of Laramie, but it is due to different expansive soils, moisture. It is a separation fabric, and it does give it a structural component to it as well.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Doherty. Yeah, and thank you from the city engineers. You know, it's good for us sometimes to hear about some of these little details, because people might ask us and then we might be able to answer some question or something. Councilmember Gabriel, thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just, William, a general question about availability of contractors with all of the stuff going on at the university and around, I'm sure, the region. How difficult is it to find contractors to do the jobs?
Great question.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor, Councilor Gabriel, it just varies on the project, to be honest. It varies on what the intent of the project is. This project, I failed to mention as I introduced an item or said my background portion, we did get 2 bids on it. We had Knife River and Simon Contractors both bid on the project. Those are our local providers of asphalt, so it makes sense that they would be the contractors to bid this type of project. Other projects, we are seeing various contractors, some from as far away as Montana and Gillette, Sheridan area being interested in the project. And then some other projects that we're seeing less local availability.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question, Councilmember Gabriel, and it's good to hear that we're catching, multiple. The city clerk's telling me there's nobody waiting, so one more chance if you thought of something. All right, let's have a roll call vote on the item.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stelter,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Cumbie,
Councilor Cumbie, you'll have to turn your microphone on for us, sorry.
Sorry. Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. So that motion carries. And we come to item number 16 now on the agenda, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Cumbie.
Title Amendment 1 to the Professional Services Agreement for the 15th Street Reconstruction Design. I move to approve Amendment 1 to the 15th Street Reconstruction Project Professional Services Agreement with Tri-Hydro Corporation to conduct construction services in the amount of $39,629 with a contingency of $4,000 for a total amendment of $43,629 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
All right, that's a motion and second from Vice Mayor Pierce. And for the next item, we've got our city engineer, Mr. Winkler here. Go for it.
So yeah, wrapping up the public works items pretty much for this one is the CMCA contract with Tri-Hydro to do the inspection or help with inspection services out on 15th Street. With this, they completed the design. They understand the intent of the project, and that's how we advertised our RFQ is to include this after the design was completed. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Great. Questions on this item? Don't see any. Comments? I think we've already made most of our general comments on these projects, but that's okay. All right, let's see if we have any public comment. No hands. Nothing from the city clerk. It's okay. Last chance for questions or comments. All right, let's have a roll call.
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stelter,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. That motion carries. A lot of infrastructure projects we've made it through, and it's good to see all those things happening. They're happening seemingly all at once. Got item number 17, and we're going to turn that over to Councilmember Gabriel as our Parks Committee liaison. He'll introduce that one for us. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move to award the bid for the Scout Park Development Project to Big Hunks Excavation, Inc., Laramie, Wyoming, in the amount of $594,041.98, along with a contingency of $29,702.10, and the total amount not to exceed $623,744.08, and amend the fiscal year 2021-22 SPT budget accordingly, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
That's a motion and a second from Councilmember Schuster. Thank you. And I see Assistant City Manager Feeser here to tell us about this one. Another pretty exciting project. Go ahead, Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. As stated in the agenda, this is the bid award to construct Scout Park, which is interesting. I think we've been working on this for about 6 years through design and funding, and then not having funding, and then finally getting to funding and getting there. The project includes a park pathway, playgrounds for 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, restroom, a pad for a future shelter, along with associated sewer, water, irrigation, and electrical infrastructure. We did let this in early March and received 2 bids. One was $644,000. Let me scroll down to $644,041.98. The other was $712,283. And working with the developer, we've moved to with the bidder, we've moved to shallow up the sewer line, which is a reduction of about $50,000 to the project. So we've got the project at $594,041.98 with a 5% contingency to help us get it finished out without having to come back to council. We're excited to get this project done with council approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. Council members, questions or comments on this one? I guess just briefly from me, I'd like to ask you if this was one of the areas in the city of Laramie, prides itself on having a lot of great parks all over the city. Is this an area where in the past we felt like this might be a neighborhood that was a little bit deficient in parks or access for parks? Because I anticipate once this is done, park is going to get a lot of use.
Honorable Mayor, I believe that's true. I think it's interesting to say that this is a park that really has no amenities right now. They have no, aside from some soccer fields down in the detention pond, there's nothing else to this aside from a fitness course. And it's basically just green open space. This area is divided off, you know, by Reynolds, by Harney, and they do have good distance before you get to any actual usable playgrounds, which actually is currently across Reynolds Street at Indian Paintbrush School. And you know, those aren't available during school hours. So I do believe it's going to have some important improvements in it. It's nice for this neighborhood and will be a significant impact to this community.
I appreciate that, and you know, we're glad to hear about it. Other council members, anything you want to add or ask about Scout Park here?
Yeah.
Long time in the making. All right, let's see if there's public comment on it. No hands up. Okay, nothing from the city clerk. We'll just go to a roll call.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Stelter,
Yes.
Humby,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. So that motion carries. Takes us to item number 18, and I'm going to recognize Councilmember Schuster for this one.
Thank you very much. The title is Resolution 2021-31, supporting the nomination for the 2021 WHAM Community Hero Award. The council recommends the motion. I move to pass a resolution 2021-31 approving the nomination of Wyotech for the 2021 WHAM Community Hero Award and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
All right. A motion appropriately made by Councilmember Schuster and a second from Councilmember O'Doherty, and I think I will now turn it over. Yep, I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Jordan.
Hello, good evening, Council. Thank you, Mayor. As you know, the Wyoming Association of Municipalities at their annual conference offers member communities a chance to nominate a variety of awards. The award that we're discussing tonight is called the Community Hero Award. For our community, for Laramie, our city has taken a position over a number of years to try to look out into our community and identify organizations that have been very impactful to Laramie, either through volunteerism or contribution to local economy, et cetera, et cetera. So as we brainstormed this year, what organization or what group might be a community hero, it really struck us that Wyotech, excuse me, has really been challenged in the last 4 years and has risen to that challenge and has been able to continue in the community and to be an impact, a huge impact to our local economy, excuse me. So just by way of history, for those of you who may not be aware of it, Wyotech has been in Laramie since 1966. But in November of 2017, about 4 years ago, the then corporate ownership, Zenith, who at the time owned the school, announced that they were going to be reducing the total number of campuses in the country they supported from 56 down to 3. And they had slated our Laramie Wyotech campus to be closed in its entirety. I remember vividly, I think it was Veterans Day that November, meeting in my office with then Mayor Andy Somerville. And really, as a municipality, as a municipal government, thinking, wow, what does this mean for Laramie? This could be very devastating to our economy. And so a lot of work ensued with that November 2017 announcement. That work included many officials from city government as well as county government. We had LCCC involved, we had University of Wyoming officials, we had many staff members from Wyotech, and also a number of legislators involved, and discussion ensued from November through the legislative session both at the state and local level, as to how we might save Wyotech and preserve its presence in our community. At one point, the school was down to just some 12 staff persons. And so you could imagine going from operating some 400 students and 120 staff positions down to just a handful of staff positions and 11 students. That was a very significant concern for our community. This all culminated with the state of Wyoming working into a public-private partnership where the school was able to continue operating in Laramie. That was a $5 million loan that's managed by the Wyoming Business Council. And it allowed Wyotech to be back in business in 2018. But again, they only had 11 students and 7 employees just a few years ago in 2018. So what we think makes them our community hero is that since then, Wyotech has had really just exponential growth. Myself and my executive assistant, Nancy Oakland-Potter, met with Kyle Morris and with Jim Mathis at UW last week to really understand where they're at right now. And what we learned is that in March of 2020, so just a little over a year ago, the campus had gone to a total of 240 students with 80 employees. Enrollment right now is at a very impressive 440 students and 125 employees, both full and part-time. Their enrollment is projected right now as they look to the fall to top 600 students. So it's just a really significant success story. They have 350 students currently on campus. They expect that they'll have 400 residents on their Wyotech campus this summer and potentially 500 students on their campus in dormitories in fall of 2020. Laramie's local economy has extensive financial benefit from the presence of the school, and obviously there's cultural amenities as well. And so we just felt the new Wyotechs really continue that tradition of supporting investing in its host community, in addition to just the residual economic effects that having the school in our community provides to us. The way that they do that is through very purposeful patronage of local businesses. Jim Mathis told me last week he bought DQ blizzards, I believe, for the entire student population recently. I can't imagine what DQ thought when they got an order for dozens and dozens of blizzards. But then in addition to patronizing local businesses, the school has continued that tradition of student volunteerism by encouraging students to volunteer in the Laramie community, and they're allowed to earn extra credit when they do that. So anyway, there is future growth expected at the school. You can read about that in detail in the cover sheet. That was interesting to myself and staff. We actually have a development application in the planning office for the construction of some additional square footage out there to expand their course offerings. And as far as placement rates, once students leave Laramie, which of course is something that Wyotech is keenly concerned about, but I think from a community perspective, we would like to know that these folks that come through our community have a good experience and go on to gainful employment. We're told that about 85% of Wyotech graduates are employed within 90 days of graduation. So there continues to be a strong market for the training that the school is offering. So I know I've gone on for a long time. I'll stop there, but I just wanted to give you that background because it was some of it new to me myself, just having learned it last week. So with that, we've been really impressed with their comeback story and their extensive support for the Laramie community, and would like to seek your support to nominate Wyotech for the 2021 WHAM Community Hero Award out of there.
Thank you, City Manager, background and some of that history there. Almost 60 years of Wyotech, and you don't have to have heard even half of that to understand the impact they have on the local economy. So they definitely seem like an appropriate choice and a deserving choice for this. Councilor Schuster, do you have anything you'd like to add regarding this item?
No, it's been a real pleasure to work for them, and Jim Mathis is an extremely good owner, CEO of the business, and believes in Laramie, does a lot for it. He sponsors a lot of events here in town. We have Jubilee Days coming up, and we'll probably be providing close to 100 volunteers to help clean up downtown afterwards and things like that. So yeah, it's great to be out there.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Councilor Schuster, for adding those. And if I can, Council, I'd like to just add too that I can personally attest to the impact that the WyoTech student volunteers have on our community. I've seen it in a lot of different projects. They show up, they stay the whole time, they do good work. Everything from cleanups to tree planting to assistance with emergencies when they show up, or other long-term community projects. I've seen the WyoTech students show up and do a lot of good work for the city of Laramie. Councilor Schuster, I have one more question for you. I always like the car show. Do we have a car show coming next month?
It's yes, in June. I believe it's the 5th. Don't hold me to that. If that's a Saturday, I'm guessing that would be correct. We were trying to do them always around Memorial Day, but weather was always biting us really bad. Just like this year, you just don't know. We've had rain today, snow pellets today, hail today, and then rain, and I think it's raining right now again. So yeah. And we had bright sunshine at 4:30 when we got off work too. So it's just been a great day for Laramie's weather.
The typical Wyoming spring weather. Well, if there's a car show, I know people will want to go check it out. There's always a lot of really cool, kind of rare cars at those things. So if there is one, people will be there. This is a great little thing for our council to be able to do on behalf of WAM, recognize this community hero. Any other comments? Go ahead, Councilor Schuster. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I got to throw a plug in because one of my committees is the Wyoming Territorial Park. I would have to look it up, but they are having a car show today on premises. So it won't be in their parking lot. You'll have to come into the park to see it. So I'll throw in a plug for them too for a car show this summer.
When is that going to happen, Councilor Schuster?
I'll have to look it up. And I'll make sure it's posted.
All right. Yeah, we like that stuff around here. Okay. Well, like I said, this is a good positive thing for our council. We're happy to do it. Anybody else have anything they want to add or say here?
Mr. Mayor, if I
yes,
can.
please. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Somerville, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to add, WyoTech is a huge boon to the community, and I want to applaud them for the way they've continued to develop after a really trying time in 2017, and thank the state for supporting them, and the commission and all the legislators that really helped Mr. Mathis kind of continue that vision. But I would also put in a plug for West Laramie. They are a huge business out here in West Laramie, and their contributions out here are numerous, and so I just want to recognize them for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Somerville. Completely accurate, totally appropriate, and I think everybody agrees with you. They're a big deal in our community, and they make a big impact. All right, let's see if there's any public comment on the item. I don't have any hands up. Don't have anything from the city clerk. Well, thanks again, everybody, for comments, and staff for the work on this to come up with a really good and deserving nominee for this WAM recognition. And city clerk, can we have a roll call on it?
Humby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Stalder.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
That motion carries, and we'd like to congratulate them. And we'll move on now to our next item, number 19. I'll turn it over to Councilmember Stalder for introduction.
I move for the council to approve original ordinance number 2026, amending LMC 5.09.615, prohibited on licensed premises underage exceptions, on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second from Councilmember Schuster. Thank you both. And we'll turn it over to the city clerk to give us a recap of the background on it.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you was a request made by a local business owner, O'Dwyer's. They have a unique situation with their liquor license where they have a package store, a bar, and a restaurant. Under the current exception, they are allowed to exclude off-premise catering events, and are requesting that they also may be able to exclude their package sales. The last couple of years, they've been right on the 50% mark that would allow them to have minors in their restaurant portion of the building. And so their concern was just for future years. So before you was just 4 words that the city attorney and I worked together and drafted for you to add that would give them that exception to be able to exclude the package sales. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, City Clerk. Any questions for our City Clerk on this item? Just say I want to thank you guys, yourself, City Clerk, and the City Attorney for the work to come up with that right language so that we can make an appropriate exception for the business owner, and also make sure that it conforms with the rest of the state laws surrounding these liquor licenses. It's a good solution. We appreciate it, and I know that that business owner and their customers will too. So thank you. We'll check and see if there's public comment on the item. I don't see any hands raised. City Clerk is saying there isn't any other no indication for public comments. So, Council, I'll give you one more chance at this one. Okay, let's have a roll call.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Stelter.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Humby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington. Absent. Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
That motion carries. Thank you, City Clerk. Okay, we'll go to the next item under our agenda, which is item number 20, which will be introduced by Councilmember Cumby. Councilmember Cumby, I'm sorry, you'll have to turn your microphone on. Yeah, no worries, we all do it.
Okay, title, Resolution 2021-32, extending implementation date of enrolled ordinance number 1778, non-municipal water use. I move to approve a resolution 2021-32, extending the implementation date of enrolled ordinance number 1778, non-municipal water use, to December 1, 2021, and authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign.
Second.
Boy, that was really close on the second. I'm going to give it to Councilmember Schuster. So thank you both, and thank you, Vice Mayor. You were right there, but I think that was Councilmember Schuster on that one. I see the city manager is here for the background, and we'll turn it over to City Manager Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, as you recall, you passed ordinance, enrolled ordinance 1778 in August of 2020, so about 8 months ago. That ordinance requires non-municipal wells that lie within the portion of our services area that is inside of the corporate limits to receive a permit from the city. So staff have been preparing to implement this ordinance for a number of months. As part of the due diligence that we've been engaged in, we've learned that there are more than 200 wells within the corporate limit portion of our utility services area. It won't surprise you to learn that only 30 of those 200 wells lie outside of West Laramie. The remaining 170 wells are largely located in the West Laramie area. And of course, the reason that we're not surprised to learn that is that we know that those neighborhoods that lie west of Interstate 80 were actually developed initially as rural subdivisions. And then in 1966, by petition of the folks living there, the city, after a lengthy process, the city ultimately annexed those formerly rural subdivisions into the city and provided piped water and sewer services to the residents there. So a few statistics just to share with you some of the things that we've learned. Of the 170 some wells in West Laramie, we believe the majority of those were constructed for domestic use. Domestic use of the water means, you know, for the things that you do in your household and in a typical residential property. And that is according to records that we were able to ascertain from the Wyoming State Engineer's Office. About 37% of the wells in West Laramie are completed in the alluvium, which means their well total depth is 30 feet or less. And about 63% were completed in the Morrison or Cloverly bedrock, which means that they exceed 30 feet in depth, we believe. And then we did learn there is one well that is completed to be much, much deeper and into the Casper Aquifer. So I wanted to share just a little bit of those facts with you, but what this has made us realize is that with 170 wells needing to be permitted in West Laramie alone, we think it's necessary to really get a lot more information about this particular portion of our community. We don't know, for instance, how many of these wells are even known to exist by the people on upon whose property they may be. We don't know whether the wells are used, and if they are used, we don't know for what purpose. So it's reasonable to assume that none of these wells are probably connected to residences, but we also need to confirm that also. So I'm recommending that we delay the implementation of Enrolled Ordinance number 1778 until December 1st of 2021. We think that'll give us sufficient time to get that information we need, particularly in West Laramie. And I think it's fairly evident to myself and to staff and to our consulting geologists that we're going to need to provide some public education and some public support to the folks who own these wells in West Laramie. For instance, we may want to provide some water quality testing to determine what are safe uses of those well waters. Historically and anecdotally, I've always been told that the reason the annexation was requested by the residents there is that many of the wells were contaminated or had high levels of arsenic, I believe. So that's anecdotal. Please don't consider that fact, but that's what I've always been told. We need to understand what the water quality in those wells are so that we know if it's even safe for, say, animals to drink. We don't know that. And I suspect there are residents who would like to learn more about the wells on their property. In addition, we may want to develop a program where we can provide some support to folks on how to maintain their wells or maybe cap their wells if they just don't want that responsibility any longer. And of course, we want to be sure that folks know they have the well so that they do maintain it properly so we don't have safety issues in the neighborhood. So anyway, those are the reasons we're asking for the delay. I will share with you that it's my intention to proceed forward to implement this ordinance east in the eastern part of the town with the 30 wells that exist there much sooner than December 1st. But I think West Laramie and those 170 wells out there is really a special case. We need to take more time with it. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager, for the background and explanation on this item. Council members, questions or follow-up on any of that information? Long and complex history around some of the water infrastructure in Laramie, as we know. Councilmember Gabriel, and then I'll go to Councilmember Stalder. Councilmember Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. Janine, just curious, it seems like a rather large job, 170 domestic wells just in West Laramie alone. What kind of staff time, or will a consultant be hired to take on this project?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Councilor Gabriel, that's an excellent question. I mentioned our consulting geologist. So we've already engaged on a very small contract, one of our local geologists to help us gather all the data to understand how many wells we were dealing with. That's Chris Moody. Myself and Darren Parkin and Chris sat with our 3 Ward 1 councilors recently to kind of prep them up on this issue that exists in their ward. And it's pretty clear to me that as we work through the 170 wells in West Laramie, we almost certainly will require additional consultation with professional geologists. I just can't tell you, Councilor Gabriel, right now what the scope of that will be, but if you think even something as simple as helping us develop and make sure that we provide good public information to these well owners, we will want to rely on that kind of professional expertise to make sure we give them good information. So yes, we will use outside assistance to get through this. I hope we can get it done by December 1st, but it is not unlikely that we might be back here once we've gathered better data about what's going on with those wells and asking for even a further extension of maybe another 3 to 6 months.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that information. Good question, Councilmember Gabriel. Councilmember Stalder.
How will this affect the other large customer that we were kind of talking about when we implemented the resolution, and that being the university? I don't know. You know, the timing of this coming up in the first place was important, and where are we at with that customer now?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Councilor Stoll.
Not in general, just in terms of this resolution.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Stalder. Please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. One other piece I can share with you as far as staff creating sort of the administrative paradigm for Enrolled Ordinance 1778 is we've developed criteria for where wells can be easily permitted because we know that they pose little concern for interference with any of the city's major wells or infrastructure. And so the 30 wells that exist east of Laramie are really in the geographic area where they might have concerns for the city with respect to interference with our potable water system. But as we've developed that criteria, we also believe that it is very unlikely that any of the wells in West Laramie pose that kind of concern as far as them being so far from like City Springs and our Turner wells and those sorts of things. So directly to your question, Councilor Spelder, we, as I said, my intention is to proceed forward in May with probably letters out, maybe early June, letters out to the 30 well owners in the eastern part of town, which would include the university, although there are many other well owners, and ask them to move forward with the permitting process so that we can evaluate if their wells pose any concern with respect to the potable system operation.
Yeah, follow up, Councilor Stalder. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You know, so if the majority of the wells in West Laramie don't pose any threat to our water system, you know, I just wonder about the wisdom of spending, I'm not sure how much money on a consultant and, you know, follow up research and permitting on those if we want to narrow this down to a certain area or not.
City Manager.
That was a rhetorical question, I guess.
Right.
Please.
Yes, Mayor and Councilor Stoddard, when you said narrow it down to a specific area, do you mean, I assume you mean the resolution in front of you tonight. And candidly, you could do that. You certainly could. Your deadline to implement right now in Enrolled Ordinance 1778 is May 31st. And it is almost certain that even though we will initiate permitting on the 30 wells in the eastern part of town, we won't conclude that by May 31st. So that's the reason I left this resolution as applicable across the entire city.
Follow up, Councilor Stalder, go ahead.
I think I got it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good questions. Councilmember Schuster, I saw your hand.
Thank you very much. On these minor wells that are not into the Casper aquifers in West Laramie, if we find someone, we're just going to permit them at no charge, correct? It's not like we're going to put this long piece of paperwork and everything in there. We just want to show them that you might have a well on your property and we'd like you to know it's there and here's how you take care of it and stuff like that. We're not going to put up some long drawn out thing on people in West Laramie, are we?
City Manager.
Through you, Mayor, Councilor Schuster, you know, no, I don't think so at all. I think what we've learned with respect to those 170 wells is a little bit shocking. I mean, we knew there were wells out there, but 170, that's a lot. And so I think from a staff standpoint, and I speak for myself and Darren Parkin, but we're more concerned about the safety issue that we now have learned exists in our community that at least staff didn't fully appreciate the breadth of it until we pulled this data. So my hope and intention is we'll use the permitting process as a way, like I said, to help those homeowners out there know if they have a well, if they are using it, maybe test it, make sure it's okay for, you know, stock watering or for animals to drink or children to run in if it's being sprinklered. And if folks just don't want to deal with these old wells anymore either, what we'd like to do is explore some grant possibilities that I don't know if they exist, so I don't want to get everybody's hopes up. But what would be really optimal, I think, is I suspect some of these people don't even know they have the well, and when they find out, they may not even want it anymore. But we need it to be capped appropriately for safety reasons. So with grant money, maybe we could provide some kind of a financial assistance. So I just want to assure you, our intention is to honor your ordinance and get the wells permitted, but using it in West Laramie as a real chance to maybe help people deal with something that most city property owners don't expect they're going to find a well in the backyard or even know how to take care of it.
Councilor Schuster, do you have any follow-up before I move up to?
No. In a house I lived in a different city, we had a well for completely irrigation, and it was just like West Laramie. The groundwater was within 10 feet of the soil, so it worked great for irrigating your lawn and stuff like that. But yeah, I can understand completely where we're going with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Schuster. Yeah, this is some pretty remarkable information that's going to require the city to do some things here. So I think we're getting a better picture. Councilor Somerville, thanks for waiting, and I see you've joined us by camera and you've got a hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have arrived in Laramie. So I just want to thank the city manager for the diligence and Mr. Parkin and our consultant for having the conversation with the Ward 1 councilors. And I want to share a very brief kind of piece of information with you that I shared with them. So I have a close acquaintance that used to own a house on the south side of Snowy Range. When they bought the house, they didn't know it had a well until they discovered a 2-foot in diameter hole in their side yard, and they had 3 children under the age of 5. And so it became a serious safety hazard. They certainly didn't use the water or even knew if the well was working. But to that point, I think that that's an experience we're going to find in a lot of these West Laramie lots, and we appreciate the conversation in terms of safety, water quality, all of those things that the city manager has described. And I want to kind of just echo Councilor Schuster's comments in that I think we have to be careful to make sure that we're providing education and resources to these property owners that have inherited a well, may not even know they have a well, anything along those lines. So I really do appreciate this approach.
Spot on, Councilor Somerville, with those comments, and I think they speak to the fact that there's a lot of reasons for us to have this inventory, this working inventory, and updated information. Like I said, I think it's pretty remarkable that number of wells is out there. Although, if you think about the history that the city manager shared with this council, maybe it's not all that surprising, given the nature of the West Laramie community and how over time it's evolved and become part of the larger city over the years, for various different reasons. But of course, there's a lot of unknowns, and this will help us answer, at least pieces of that as we go forward. So it makes sense to authorize the city manager for the delay, at least in my view, to kind of phase this in, if we can use that term a little bit. But that's enough commentary for me. Do we have any other follow-up or questions on this one? All right. Let's see if there's public comment on this item. No hands up. So, council, one more chance for you. Okay. Let's have a roll call vote.
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel. Absent. Harrington. Absent. O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Stelter.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 7 yeses, 0 noes, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion carries. And we'll move on to our next agenda item now for item number 21. And that is going to be introduced by Vice Mayor Pierce. Vice Mayor Pierce, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Laramie City Council approve the letter of support for the Sailors Solar Project on the Monolith Ranch and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Take somebody else. I've had enough.
All right. I'll give it to Councilmember O'Doherty. You guys are on top of it tonight. Thank you for the motion in the second. Assistant City Manager Feaser, thank you.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, I would actually take one motion and 8 seconds, and then we could get through this a little bit quicker tonight. The NextEra Energy had contacted us. They've had some movement with Pacificor on acceptance of the Sailor Solar Project into the system. They believe that a letter of support from the City of Laramie would help spur this project along, showing our desire to consume more renewable energy and being a reflection of our community and residents. There are 2 points that this hits on specifically as far as City Council goals. Resolution 2021-14, pursuing a net zero carbon neutral future for the City of Laramie. And this project, I believe right now, if it generates 160 megawatts, is more than the City of Laramie consumes. And then it also helps us with green energy. And one more, I lost my train of thought there. It helps us with some revenue coming off the ranch, getting that more to a black situation and profiting situation. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Appreciate the background on that one. Assistant City Manager, questions or commentary on this one? Go ahead, Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. Commentary mostly. I think it's a fantastic project. I'm hoping it's Kinney Sailors is the project name. So named after a phenomenal basketball star here in Laramie. And also one of the things, Assistant City Manager Feaser, there's going to be I'm going to call it a battery station, and that's not the technical name to it. It's not a normal battery, but it will be charging into this battery while supplying power into the grid that will also supply power during the middle of the night. So this won't be just a thing that as soon as the sun goes down, it shuts off. This will supply a constant power source into the grid 24 hours a day, which I think is just a phenomenal achievement that different things have made such advancements in the last 20 years in battery technology and things like that, that this will be a constant power source night or day. So it's just a fantastic statement.
All right. Honorable Mayor, through you to Councilor Schuster, you are correct. It's a 160 megawatt generation and then an 80 megawatt battery storage to provide electricity at night. So it does have some benefit and does a fantastic job of using overproduced energy when it may not be consumed.
Good information. I appreciate hearing it. Councilmember O'Doherty.
I support this obviously, but I was also wondering why we're writing to the company that's putting in the solar project instead of Rocky Mountain Power. So I would like Rocky Mountain Power to know that we have a lot of people supporting, paying extra on our bills for the Blue Sky program. And so we would love to see them get power from this source.
Councilor O'Doherty, I think some of the reason for that is the way these things are negotiated and how they have to move forward. But I know the Assistant City Manager has better information than I do. Sorry. Go ahead, Assistant City Manager.
Honorable Mayor, you're correct. This was a request from NextEra to them, ensuring them that we have that desire that they will pass along in their application to Pacific Power. So I believe this gets there the same way. I think we could, if council so choose, draft a second letter directly to Pacific Power if you would like to, but this is fulfilling the request of the company that's looking to produce this energy at this point.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. Councilor O'Doherty, you want to follow up on that at all?
That's fine. And we can write individual letters too.
Sure. Absolutely. Should we get to that point, I I would guess that the city staff would be comfortable approaching us for a second letter at the appropriate time to support this project. And I think as council, we all understand where a lot of our constituents are on this. It's a pretty impressive project, and I for one would really like to see it come to fruition and move forward. I think it would be a big contribution to some of our goals. You know, these green energy goals are kind of a one piece at a time thing, and this is a unique opportunity to take a big chunk out. So we'd like to do that if we could. I know a lot of people feel that way. I know a lot of our Laramie residents would love to see something like this happen. I'm going to see if there's any public comment on this item. Don't see any hands up. City clerk isn't letting me know that we have anybody else. Council members, anything else on this one? It's kind of a big deal, but it's early days yet. All right. City clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stalder,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
That motion carries. Council, before we move to our next item on our agenda tonight, I'd like to suggest that we take a 5-minute break if there isn't any objection. Is everyone okay with that? Let's just take a quick 5-minute break. We'll see you back here at 8:13. let's reconvene our meeting. And again, we appreciate the opportunity for a little recess there. And Councilor Somerville, you're back with us, and we were going to wait and see if you were able to make it back. And since you're here, you're going to have the duty to introduce our next item, which is item number 22. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve original ordinance number 2025 on third and final reading, establishing DC zoning district for a city block 212, original Laramie final plat, approximately 1.8 acres in size, located at 710 Garfield Street, in accordance with findings of fact and conclusions of law, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the ordinance.
Second.
The motion and a second from Vice Mayor Pierce. Thank you both. And we've got our planners from City Planning Department here, Mr. Cheney, Mr. Cox. Turn it over to whoever's given us the background or kind of the recap on the background for this one.
Cool. Mayor, Council, thank you so much. I just got about 3 items I kind of want to address just from hearing former questions, concerns, rumors, everything. You will notice one attachment that I have attached to y'all's agenda this week is a map. On that map, you have our zoning districts as well as the DDA boundary. And what I want to point out through this is that this boundary has been approved through a number of ordinances through the past. I think the most recent one might have been in 1996. I do believe there's one on Clark Street that's currently under being voted on by the DDA. But you'll notice mainly that this boundary takes up areas within C2, I2, B2, and R3, and doesn't even encompass certain areas of the DC district. And so what this is saying is that this boundary, the DDA, does not run specifically with the DC district. And on Main Street's website, it does state that their service area is dictated by the DDA boundary, and it states that by their bylaws. And so just zoning LPCC as the DC district does not bring them directly into the DDA's service area. The next is that kind of a bit of history with the comprehensive plan when it was made and the name of the downtown commercial district. Downtown commercial district was named specifically because it encompassed the downtown area as we know it. Prior to that name, staff did recommend that it was named urban commercial based on the form and kind of fit of the buildings and the physical presence that the buildings and uses and everything that came together within an urban commercial area. The downtown commercial district does not independently encompass just our historic downtown area. We have houses, we have government offices within there, we have new plumbing shops, just a number of uses that don't go along with just the historic area. And so when it comes to the name of the DC district, we feel this doesn't have any relevance to the zoning aspect of it. It just got named that because of this is the only location. And I do realize that the LPCC is the first time we are zoning something outside of that kind of first DC district, the DC district now. But we do feel as though the Civic Center is very much in line with that form and fashion that you find within urban commercial areas. And that brings me to the next point is that, the Civic Center is a very unique building. It's a very unique use of a building within our city as well. And we find it that the DC district, as it is defined, of which urban commercial is in that definition multiple times. It has buildings that come to the lot lines. It has many uses. It is an incubator site. This all forms in with the DC district more specifically than any other zone district that we have within our kind of library of zone districts. But I'm going to leave it at that, and I am here for any questions or concerns that council or the public may have. Thanks.
Thank you, Matthew, and for taking some time to kind of walk through on some of those previous questions. And we'll go to the council. I'm going to go to Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Planner Cox, I just want to clear up a couple of things. So I went over the DDA map and the Main Street map, and they do match exactly. It's required by their bylaws right now. And if I'm looking at your map right, Prexy's pasture is zone DC on that map. Am I reading that wrong? Could you help me clarify that?
Mayor, Councilor Somerville, I believe what you may be mistaking is the county courthouse.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I guess I looked at the sidewalks going out, so I appreciate that. So I guess I still am confused in terms of the overlay because the DDA matches the DC zoning and the Laramie Main Street adopts DDA's boundaries. So as far as the conversations we had, those are all in perfect alignment. So I guess I'm a little concerned about why we're having a difference of information.
Mayor, Council, if you go on the DDA website under the city, the boundaries have been voted on by council in the past through a number of ordinances, and they have encompassed areas like the Ivinson Mansion that you can see is R3. It even has, back in 1996, that little jut out just to the west of the Ivinson Mansion that is B2, right next to where you'll find like Motive Coffee these days and stuff like that. That was brought into DDA. And so I am also unsure of where the maps that you are referencing are coming from. I just haven't seen those. And so this is the information that I have found and we have found through our past ordinances and through DDA bylaws, of which it kind of spells out each block by degrees, seconds, minutes, all that stuff through kind of this area that we're seeing on the map.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. You bet. Council members, other questions for planners? The questions for planners on this. Vice Mayor Pierce.
So how about if you give me the highlights, if you would please, on the differences and or similarities between R3 zoning and DC zoning.
Sure. Mayor, Council. So as you know, R3 is specifically catered to our densest residential use within the city. And this takes up a large part of what a lot of people refer to as the tree district. Smaller lots, more units. Right now, the Laramie Plains Civic Center is grandfathered into this use. For the most part, under the R3 district, most of the uses that they have within their building would have to go through either a conditional use or not permitted within the R3 district. Things that would be permitted or things that you would have a conditional use for would be like restaurants. I believe there's like in-home offices. I'm not 100% sure if even offices are allowed within the R3 district. And so the DC does permit almost all of these uses, as well as like a community use, and it does condition uses such as indoor entertainment like the Griffin. The other big thing are the design standards. R3 would require parking for all of these uses, whether it's residential, office, what have you. And so under our code, if a certain use comes in, such as an indoor skate park or something that takes up half a floor of that building footprint, it'll trigger a certain percentage that then would trigger it could trigger a type 3 site plan, of which then triggers parking. And truly, parking is a really large factor of our conversation here. And what protects the building from either having to go through variance after variance after variance for any time they want to change, or from having to buy land adjacent to them, or God forbid, cut out a portion of the building to give parking, which staff does see as a pretty major burden, not just monetarily, but also just to the structure itself. And so those are the kind of key differences that staff finds to recommend approval of this zoning amendment. But yeah.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So, but Mr. Cox, did I hear you say that because the Civic Center has been there for many years, that they are automatically grandfathered in to basically anything that would occur in that building? Or am I, so you're giving me, I guess I'm a little confused because you're giving me examples of things that could potentially occur in the building, or perhaps are even currently occurring in the building, that don't meet the R3 requirement, but you've also said that they are grandfathered in to almost any activity that occurs. So am I misunderstanding?
There's a small, large, sorry, Mayor Council. There's a kind of small but large factor that I might not have vocalized well, but basically if there's a use that becomes large enough and say takes up 20% of the building, whether that's going to be offices, something like a skate park or whatever that could take up a whole floor plan, that then triggers the whole site to come into compliance. Right now, what we're seeing with the Laramie Plains Civic Center is all of their uses that are in there are taking up such a small area that they don't trigger that 20% to trigger all the code requirements. And so, yes, it's grandfathered in. All the uses are since its beginning in 1982 or something. But like, if the Griffin didn't exist prior to the 2010 code update, then a use such as that could trigger kind of code compliance, where we would have to find variances for landscaping, variances for parking, and anything of that sort that the building is of a unique style that couldn't really cater to parking or landscaping at this point. Did that make sense, kind of that 20% threshold?
Yeah, it does, and thank you. So basically what this proposal is doing, if I can dumb it down for me as not being a planner, is we're trying to find a zoning district or a zoning whatever it would be called, that actually works for the building and potentially any future plans of the building in the middle of a really dense residential neighborhood. Do I have that correct? I mean, we're taking a urban commercial or downtown commercial, and we're being asked to basically approve anything that occurs from now and into the future that meets within the DC zoning district into a really heavy residential neighborhood. And that's probably why that was a school in the first place. I mean, it makes total sense historically that it was a school, right? So, because you're in a heavy residential district. So, yeah, so I guess I'm understanding it. I'm not necessarily sure I support the attempt here, but I guess I understand the reason. I mean, the Civic Center, once it wasn't a school, has always been, I guess, a building of concern and great historic value. And so, Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, let's give it to Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you very much. That was my junior high and the original Scout Park I went to, and I'm calling for the question. We could go on forever on this thing.
Okay, there's been a motion to call the previous question. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Does everyone understand the procedure that we're about to utilize here? City Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, just of note, since we don't do these often, it does require a 2/3 vote.
Point of information from the City Clerk. Thank you very much. The motion is...
Point of information, we haven't heard from the public or the people that this affects.
The motion is not debatable. So let's move to the roll call on the previous question.
Cumby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington. Absent. O'Doherty.
No.
Schuster.
Yes.
Stalder.
Can I clarify, are we voting on calling the question or we're voting on the motion?
We're voting on...
Sorry, Mayor.
Yes.
Voting on calling the question. Thank you, City Clerk. I'm sorry. Calling the question. And that was a yes vote, Councilor Stalder, to make sure that we... Okay.
Somerville.
No.
Pierce.
No.
Weaver.
No.
That's 4 yeses, 4 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
The motion fails on a tie vote. Let's see. I think I had someone in line to speak prior to that motion, but I see Councilmember O'Doherty seeking recognition, so I'll recognize Councilmember O'Doherty, please.
I would like the public to get to weigh in on this before we vote on it. Thank you.
Yes, we'll take public comment on the item when we get there. I think there's still an opportunity for council members to ask questions and get some more feedback from the city staff. But the motion can be made to call the question at any time, as we know from our handy dandy Robert's Rules of Order. All right, other questions or comments on this item? I have some, but I want to give council members a chance around the Hollywood squares here. Okay. Well, I have 2 questions that I'd like to ask, and for either Mr. Tini or Mr. Cox from planning, whoever wants to weigh in on it. My first question is about variances, because for some reason I have it in my mind that a variance procedure might have been a more appropriate process for this, but I, like the Vice Mayor, am not a planner. And I know I brought this up before, and I was given some information that maybe that wouldn't have been the best way to go. So my question is, when a property seeks a variance for different uses, do they have to go through each specific variance that they're seeking for the property, for the institution? Is it not possible for an agency like the Civic Center to approach the Planning Commission with a package set of variances in one request? So that's my question. Can a set of variances be requested in one step from our Planning Commission, or does it have to be individual variances for each variance that they're seeking?
Mayor, Council, a bit of a stage question. I'll take it with concern. And so, say there is a use that comes into the building that triggers all of these compliances. Then that one time, that variance can encompass landscaping. It can encompass parking, but then you can't do a variance based on a use. And so under the R3 district, like if someone wanted to bring in, you know, a recording studio that took up half a floor or something, you know, it just, as we get bigger and the city gets more popular, that wouldn't be allowed. You know, they would be limited to a very small room, because variances can't grant you a variance to a use that's not allowed in that zone. So things like a commercial pottery studio, you know, that's not allowed within the R3 district. But then you can't take that variance and, you know, make it applicable to the next time someone wants to bring in a use. So maybe you got a variance for the landscaping and parking for the skate park or something, but next time someone wants to bring in a, I don't know, something else that would require a variance for
yeah, right, good enough.
You know, you'd have to go through the variance again. And so we just end up going through variances and variances and variances. And the whole point of our code is to avoid variances. If we are going through variances, then our code is failing in that particular spot. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It certainly does. But I think why I'm still wrestling with it is, of course, we keep emphasizing the unique nature of this particular property and everything that they do and everything that they essentially host there. So it seems to me that somewhere in there there's a solution outside of kind of a box zoning where they're kind of a little zone island. And that leads me to my next question. But I guess maybe I should see if Mr. Cheney wants to add anything to that. Now, it looks like you covered it. And I do understand. I get it. And you've explained that well for me. So my next question is this. Maybe this is a little more subjective. And if it is, you know, I recognize that. Just answer it to the extent that you feel comfortable. I'm a little bit worried about a scenario that we might be setting ourselves up for with this kind of non-contiguous zoning where we have this island here. And, you know, I look at the map, and I thank you very much for providing these district maps for the downtown district and then the different zones that we have here. And we've got the Civic Center that wants that's requesting to be zoned this way. But then it looks like we have a block and a half, which I suppose isn't the biggest difference in zoning distance, but it's a block and a half of R3 zoning here. And I just wonder if we have any concerns about that island that we're creating by requesting this zoning here. And if you could just once again visit that for us, because I think you've addressed that a little bit before, but if you could once again kind of speak to us about this being the best choice as opposed to maybe another route that you could go that might not require that island of zoning. And then I see other questions. So to the extent that you feel comfortable answering that question, please.
Yeah, Mayor, Council. So yes, it would be creating an island zone, and staff did take this under consideration. But you know, we found we don't like to make island zones all the time, but we found that this use and this, like I've said, unique style of building, a unique style of use really does fall within that DC. And what helps with understanding that island use is that the uses that you also have around this that are also zoned R3, and they are probably zoned R3 just because during the comp plan process, we just kind of overlaid polygons and took it down. But you have the library across the street, which is a public institutional use that does not fall within a residential use. You have a mosque just across the street to the west that is not within a residential use. And then you also have the school cafeteria food prep place just catty corner to it as well to the east. And so on top of all those uses around there, we also do want to see downtown and these types of building forms continue down our corridors. And, you know, while Grand is a major corridor, we also see these commercial uses going down Garfield as well, all the way to Eagle Plumbing at 9th Street. You know, the commercial use continues down this eastward area. And while we are not able to kind of take in that block and a half as it stands right now in between LPCC and the B2, I do believe downtown and hopefully more DC district rather than B2 starts encroaching down these corridors such as Grand and Garfield, because again, the DC district is the most sensitive commercial district we have for residential areas, and to have any type of commercial creep in to a residential area, as you find with any major neighborhood districts and other larger municipalities, it's nice to ensure that the uses that come into those neighborhoods are ones that will actually benefit the residents rather than become a hindrance, such as cafes, such as small office spaces, markets, etc. And so all these uses, I mean, the downtown commercial zoning district is meant to be a pedestrian zoning district as well. And so when you create walkable neighborhoods, you create more sustainability, you create more densely urban areas that then trigger a lot of other good practices as well.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the answer, and your willingness to kind of engage a little bit on some of these questions. You know, we put the staff from our planning office through their paces all the time on these, but it's because they're important issues to the community. We get a lot of feedback on them. Vice Mayor, did I see that you had a hand up a little while ago? Or was that Councilor Cumby? I'm sorry, you guys are next to each other on the screen. I apologize. No? Vice Mayor or Councilor Cumby? No? Okay. Other council members, I know we have some council members that are eager for us to, okay, I'm gonna go to Council Member Stalder, then to the Vice Mayor. Council Member Stalder.
I'll make this quick since I did vote to call the question. I think something that you said, Mr. Cox, that stood out to me is that it's really nice to make sure the uses in a building fit the neighborhood. And while I love the idea of having a pottery studio or a recording studio, the Civic Center is huge, and I sort of like the idea of approaching this through a variance more because it gives us a little bit more control. And my biggest concern is creating a parking nightmare, and that's something that we hear from our constituents all the time. I don't want to be unfriendly by voting against this, you know, like unfriendly to businesses, but I want to make sure that, just like you said, we're maintaining the character that's appropriate there. And if we just do DC zoning and it's kind of carte blanche for whatever, we sort of lose that. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Cox, if you want to add something to that, and I'm going to say, although I know the council member is aware of this, you're always able to speak as much as you want on any issue, even if you vote to call the question in an earlier time. All right, go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Go ahead, Matthew.
I spoke a lot about it last time, so in the sense of time.
No, it's an important discussion, which is why I voted not to move it along too quickly. Go ahead, Matthew. Thanks for waiting for us.
Mayor, Council, we do know parking has been a concern within the public. As a reminder, we have sent letters out to everybody about this project within 300 feet of the property, and we received no concerns of parking. Also, as stated in the last meeting, the applicant did state that the LPCC is almost at full capacity. All rooms that can be rented at the moment are rented, and you hear they have 1,000+ people in and out of the building every day, and we have heard no concerns about parking. But the other thing that kind of allows a buffer and kind of a comfort for the residents around there is that they do have the opportunity to get permitted parking on their blocks, ones that protect the residents that live there to be able to park there. And the only place we actually see that residents have done that is on that south side. They have got permitted parking, so that their block is always open, and all residents around them are also able to do that. But again, we have not heard those concerns, and staff nor the applicant sees the population growing to that much more, as they just don't have the space to. But yeah.
Other council questions, comments? Vice Mayor Pierce, you were next.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for allowing me to comment again. I think one thing I certainly see here is it really creates a bit of a dilemma in our zoning situation here. So I guess I wonder if we have any future plans to potentially look more specifically in that neighborhood to avoid this, this sort of, I guess you'd call it spot zoning, because this is problematic to me, but it's also, I don't know how to fix it. I don't know. I think we need to take a real hard look at this neighborhood, probably from, east of 3rd, and go, 5-6 blocks and really look at that area as a whole. Have you had that discussion?
Mayor, Council, we have had the discussion of there are so many structures and uses within the tree district, because it is such a historic district within our city, that those uses don't work with the R3 or R2, whatever you find in this area. And as much as we would love to do just a blanket sweep of those uses, whether it's like a island overlay zone or what have you, it takes a massive amount of staff time, one, but then also we would have to get all owners to agree to that. And one of the reasons you see the DC district so jigsawed and jumbled up here on the map is that there are owners that didn't want to be zoned DC, and we couldn't force that upon them. And so while we do want to go in and take the library and take the mosque and the cafeteria and Eagle Plumbing and the office on 9th and Sheridan, it's just something we just don't have time to do. And the owners, when it comes time, hopefully they do want to rezone. And I can tell y'all, we will probably be having some other rezoning applications coming in soon for areas on the west side and in the tree district. But yeah, it is one of those one-off things that this is kind of how we've best approached it at the moment.
Thank you.
Councilmember O'Doherty.
Regarding non-contiguous zones, they're all over the city. Those B2s that are in that picture with the red, they're not contiguous. So I'm not concerned about having an island. That this structure is so much like a downtown kind of place. I think it's perfectly appropriate, and it doesn't give me heartburn to have an island. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Doherty. All right, council members, I know that, Councilmember Somerville, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep my comments brief. So I spent quite a bit of time with the Civic Center last week, toured the building. They do have a pottery studio already in there if you enjoy pottery. But one of the things that really dawned on me is their immediate uses what they expressed to me as immediate needs are more, I think, appropriate for a variance request, like a marquee sign for the theater. What we don't have is a kind of concrete future use plans in terms of anything that would change in this building. And going through the R3 zone district pamphlet from the city of Laramie, the R3 zone allows community buildings, community centers, churches, libraries. These are all permitted uses. And so I'm not concerned about that or the adjacent properties. But what did strike me is that I think in having this be R3, we're failing the Civic Center. But I don't think that DC is probably the most appropriate answer. We spent some time going through some other cities and how they handle this, and I saw what I thought was creative ways to kind of blend where you have commercial uses encroaching into a neighborhood, and that's with a neighborhood zoning district, a neighborhood business district. That seems to be the most common. There's things like Cheyenne runs an expanded downtown zoning district, things along those lines. And I think that I understand why the Civic Center may not want to remain in the R3 zone, although I do think that we have to be very careful with the parking conversation when you do still have residential in that area. But I think we're failing them and potentially setting up some very other difficult conversations with other properties that may want to be zoned DC that aren't really probably much farther from being contiguous zone. So I would really like, what I would prefer is for us to pause this application, set up the correct zoning district, like a neighborhood business that could be applicable to all of those pieces in the neighborhood core. And that way, I think we would be addressing the property owner's needs and neighborhood needs a lot better. And I'll just close that this entire process over the last couple of weeks, there is so much misinformation running around and questions that have been answered different ways. I guess I have a little heartburn over that too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council, thank you, Councilor Somerville. I know there are people, members of our council that are eager to vote, and I also know we need to go to public comment. So at this time, I'm going to go to public comment, and then we'll take it back over here unless there's objection. All right, let's move to public comment, and we'll give everyone a last chance before we vote on this item. Moving to public comment, if there's anyone that wants to speak, you certainly don't have to. I know we may have some applicant representatives here. Yes, we have the Civic Center Director, which we'd like to recognize, and we'll go ahead and recognize Ms. Mittelstadt, and go ahead and share with us anything you'd like to.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and council members. As Council Somerville mentioned, we did meet. This kind of discussion of potentially creating a new district on your guys' part is definitely something of consideration to us. However, at this point, we also feel like we are very far along in this process and have paid quite a fee for being a nonprofit. And we do genuinely feel like downtown commercial fits us, it fits our needs, it fits what we're looking for the future of the Civic Center. And I don't know, because the R3 district, it does not make sense for us. When we look at kind of moving forward and what our summer music series looks like, the potential of having food trucks or a marquee or things like that, while they may be big picture, I mean, all of these make it a lot easier for us to operate as a nonprofit. And as you all know, we see all of those as benefits. We see this as a great opportunity for us to really kind of fit better within our community. And as Matt Cox had mentioned, we are kind of more surrounded by, we are both residential, but we are also very not in the same sense. I mean, our whole, almost like a third to a half of our building is surrounded by other commercial districts like the Islamic Center, like the library, or the food distribution center for the school district. So we do also see ourselves as being this weird flux, and we understand your conflict with that as well. But in the moment, we see this as a great opportunity for us to grow, for us to expand, and to potentially, hopefully, not hit as many boundaries in the future as we move forward with events and things like that, and especially with collaboration with the library. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask that you stay for just a moment with us, because I think it's appropriate to offer the council an opportunity to ask the applicant some questions if they want to. Are there any questions for the applicant, the Civic Center Director? Okay. Oh, Councilmember Gabriel, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Kim, just curious, it was been brought up by several council members about going the variance route on the Civic Center when issues come up that you might be interested in. Could you comment on that, please?
I mean, if this doesn't go through, that will be our option. However, that is going to be anywhere between a $300 to $700 fee every time we do so. And as a nonprofit, our budget is tight, especially having been hit by COVID. So as many of those variances as we can avoid would be great. I mean, as I talked with council members Hill, there's always the potential down the line that DDC may have some variances that we may have to apply for, given that this is focused more towards specifically historic downtown Laramie. However, we also see that as being a risk we're willing to take. I mean, we recognize that that's the case, but given where we're kind of at now and where we want to go, the hoops we have to currently jump through, we see this as being a better benefit in the long run.
Currently, yes, Mayor. Currently, you are practically full. All of your space has been taken up with various entities.
Yes.
What kind of expansion do you see in the future?
Well, we currently have at the moment about 4 rooms that are, so that's our old science rooms, and then a couple other old rooms that we are currently working on renovating to be public spaces. Mostly we intend for those to be a free public community art gallery, another music, like a small music venue, and then making into rental spaces as well. Neither of those would trigger that 20% parking issue. But then other than that, it's just our basements at that point, which are unfinished. But other than that, we are at complete full occupancy for the building, which is really great for us.
I'm sure Councilor Schuster knows about the basements. Thank you, Kim.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Gabriel, and thank you, Kim, for hanging on for just an extra minute to provide answers for any other council questions. Anybody else for our Civic Center Director who's made time to be here tonight? All right, thank you, and thank you for being here. Any other public comment? I'm checking now. I don't see any. All right, and again, I know we do have council members that are eager to get to a vote so that we can move on with the rest of our meeting on this topic. But here we are for second and third opportunities on this issue before we go to a vote. All right, council members, if you'll allow me, since I haven't yet, just a comment. I'm very uncomfortable with this process, and I think this is spot zoning. I think we should just call it what it is. This is a spot zone. Now, it's very close. It's very close to some of the contiguous zoning area that I referenced earlier that I wish it fit perfectly into, and it doesn't. But I'm going to support this, even though I'm really troubled by it. And the reason I'm going to support it is because I support the Civic Center and the agencies within it. If this was another institution or facility, I would be very unlikely to vote for this. I'd be very unlikely to vote for this, but I'm going to because of the unique situation they're in. And as folks from our planning staff pointed out, what's on every side of this? You have a library, you have a plumbing and heating, you've got a school district facility, you've got a dentist's office, and then you also have interspersed within all of this a bunch of residential housing. It's a very strange kind of transitional area, which I think makes a strong argument for why this is appropriate. At the same time, I think it is spot zoning. And I heard other council members' commentary earlier. Yes, we have spot zoning throughout the city, and no, it's not good anywhere where we have it, in my view. Sometimes it's necessary, and I think it's necessary here. And I support the agencies within the Civic Center and what the Civic Center tries to do. So I'm going to vote for this, and I appreciate everybody giving me a chance for my little 2 cents. Is there anyone else that wants to speak or provide commentary before we go to a roll call vote? I'll give you a shot. City Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Cumby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington. Absent. O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Stalder.
Yes.
Somerville.
No.
Pierce.
No.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 6 yeses, 2 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk, and that motion carries. And council, particularly some of you, thank you for your patience with that discussion. It was an important topic. We needed to have a well-rounded discussion about it, in my opinion. Okay, so that gets us now to item number 23, which is public comments on non-agenda items. And we'll see if we have anyone here. I don't see anybody here with a hand up. City Clerk, did you have anyone that contacted you for this public comment period? Okay. Well, we'll close the public comment. Item number 24, consideration of future council work session topics. Do we have any about zoning perhaps, or the downtown district? Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to request an urgent work session prior to the planning department bringing any of their other downtown stuff to us on creating a more appropriate zone for the buffer around downtown.
I will second that.
Some timely considerations brought forward in the view of some of our members of council. So, all right, anything else? Any other items for future council work session topics? Okay. Let's now get to the very special motion, which I'll turn over to Councilor Schuster.
Thank you very much. I ask that the council adjourn to executive session regarding litigation, Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405, small letter A, Roman numeral 3.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand on the screen.
Aye.
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 See you there. And City Clerk, how much time do you need?